experience doing surveys and focus groups and interviews, so that's something I've also done for my work in the public space. I also have a lot of experience in project management, so I'm very familiar with budgets and Gantt charts. I have also served, again, sort of outside of my paid work. When I lived in Pittsburgh, I served as a commissioner on the Gender Equity Commission, and for that work, I helped manage some RFP and RFA processes, so I'm very familiar with managing grants, overseeing grants, and sort of doing that from more the public side, but also have applied and successfully gotten funded myself. So feel very comfortable on both those sides. So yeah, I'm really interested in serving on the board because I would love to think of how I can bring my different skill sets and knowledge to serve the board, and also think about how we can better learn about our community and hopefully better understand the needs of our community members to inform any programs, policies, or any kind of upcoming initiatives. So maybe I'll just leave it at that, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have questions? Roger.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. It's doctor too, by the way, right?
Yeah, I don't insist on being called
I
doctor,
know,
but
I
yes,
know,
technically I have my PhD. Yeah.
But it's really impressive. And I'm glad that you moved out of Pittsburgh and you live in the shadow of the Terminal Tower now. We want you to know that.
Yeah.
Cleveland's important. As a specialist, as someone who is in public health, we know that there are multiple crises around our country and public health issues. And what would you say is the single biggest public health crisis? Just if you could pick one, what would be the one that you would single out above all else?
Well, I mean, that's a great question and a big question. I mean, from my perspective, I think everything impacts health. So some of my answers might not be immediately related to health. I think right now, I think a lot of people, their financial security is very much impacting their ability to take care of their health. I think if we look at communities and even our nation, that's I think what most people are really concerned about, and I think that certainly impacts the ability to take care of nutrition, exercise, take care of their family, and really address their health needs, including following up with actual needed health and preventative services. So I think from my knowledge of I think what the American people are feeling, and I'd say even on the local side, that's what I think of first. I think that's what people, that's their first concern and issue. So maybe not what you'd all immediately think of related to health, but I think that's I think what's really at the forefront of people's minds right now, quite honestly.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Were there anybody? Amy? Or Heidi, did you have your hand up?
I did. I was just going to ask you if you have ever been to our board, or met any of the people that serve either as staff or our board members.
I will admit, I'm new. I was at the meeting back in April, but have admittedly just been kind of getting settled down. I moved in September, so I'm hoping to get more involved. This is definitely a way I'd really like to get more integrated in the community, hear about what's happening and what's going on. So only my second meeting so far, but I'm very interested in getting more involved in serving, not just on the health board, but also if there's other initiatives and work I can support. So
yeah, well, just so you know, they're rocking on the grants.
Yeah, I heard. I've heard. Yeah.
Further? Robin, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I was wondering, how do you see the issue of economics and race fitting into, already our health department has moved to start trying to address some of those issues with grants and so on. How do you see that as a priority based on your understanding and the type of interactions you've had? Where do you find that, and what kind of outreach would you promote to try to address socioeconomics and also the issue of race and being able to, at the end of the day, show improvement in the types of things that you feel would impact regarding those areas?
That's a great question. I really appreciate it. I don't think I can speak of one place of expertise for KED, to be honest, having been here, still less than a year, but I can speak from my experiences in Pittsburgh, which I can tell you is a very racially segregated city. It's historically won awards for the most livable city, but I like to say it's depending on who you're thinking about for that reason. So when I think about race and, you know, underserved, you know, populations in the Kent community, I think the best way to address it is to better understand the needs and the perspectives of our community, of our minority community. So if I was looking to try to think about how I could better improve outcomes and address disparities related to socioeconomics, again, I have my research hat on, but to me, I would want to learn from the communities themselves. So doing something like community listening sessions or visioning sessions, so thinking of ways that we can get in the community and talk to people and hear their needs, because the people are the experts on their lived experiences and their problems, and they don't need me talking to them. I think it's most important that, if anything, I listen. So what I would really want to do to better serve the needs of all, you know, Kent residents is to really take some time to think about the best ways to connect with them. Maybe that's by thinking about local businesses in the community, again, having some sessions, you know, in partnership with one of the local boards or commissions or the council, to really better understand, you know, what changes they would like to see, and then bringing that back to any relevant bodies to really think about that. You know, are there grants, are there programs, are there ways that we can, you know, alleviate those needs? We can go out and get more funding grants. So that would be my first kind of step, is really listening, you know, really identifying the communities, finding ways to connect with them, and really hearing them and sitting with that, and then thinking about ways that we can really take what we've learned and taking that back into those who can really, again, make a difference in terms of funding, grants, or programming. So I think that's relevant for probably, you know, not just our minority community, but, you know, other communities here that, you know, maybe feel underserved, but that would be my first step. And I think, regardless, I think that it's important that we have those opportunities to connect with our community members and hear their perspectives so that we can bring them back. So if folks, you know, can't come to a meeting like this, we still are finding ways in different channels to hear from their needs and hear what their priorities are and how we can best serve them. So.
Britta, any other questions? All right, we're going to vote on the 19th, and thank you for applying.
Absolutely. Thank you for your
Nice
time
job.
and consideration.
Thank you. All right, that ends the boards and commissions. We're going to get an update from the new city administration building from Melanie Baker. It's looking good. The brick all looks almost normal.
Yeah.
It blends in with each other.
That's a plus.
I was going to say, I'll let them know it looks normal. So, yeah. Well, I'm really excited. I'm giving you a quick little glimpse. I passed out a couple sheets, and we'll just go through those real quickly. The front sheet there, the first page, you see the interior hall on the main level or that bottom level. That is the hallway that will take us to the mechanical room, storage areas behind the door. But part of what that's really showing is our frames are in, our doors are ready to go, the drywall is up. I thought you might enjoy, although council chambers is so large, it's also the storage area for most of the stuff. But you can get a great appreciation for that large window and just the beauty that it's going to have, and how you're going to have such great light in that room. It's going to be really, really sweet, really nice. If you go to the second page then, that's the top floor looking down that hallway. The one thing that I love about this picture is you can actually see that all those windows are going to actually be bringing light, because we have light and transoms on those doors. So that light's going to filter into those hallways. So nothing will be dark in this building. I really appreciate that. If you haven't been to my office, or if you've been to my office, I'm an interior office. I have 0 windows. I don't even have a skylight. So this is like awesome for me. So I'm just so glad that everybody going here will have a window. And if you need to, there's really no place you're not going to be able to see. The bottom picture on that second page, wow. What a great job you guys did excellently on that council, or not council, but that main meeting room up on that 3rd level. I mean, you can't get much more picturesque or beautiful than that. So when we bring people here to see our city, what a way to showcase that downtown. It's just spectacular. So you think you'll really enjoy that. And then page 3 goes out to take a look at our brick and how that looks both on that north wall, and then the back page would be the west wall. And again, you can just begin to see how beautiful council looks. What a great job. I mean, I really need to commend you guys. As the materials come in, we never know when they're sitting on the ground exactly how they're going to look. And you guys kind of did it blindly with small little pieces. But look at the fruits of your labor coming in and encouraging me and actually entertaining me to look at all of the excitement that I had laid out every time that I brought them here. You voted, you picked, It's stunning. I think this is a stunning structure. I think you have definitely nodded to your past and your history, but with that glass atrium, really looked forward to forward thinking, being transparent, letting people know what you're doing, and really understanding this government building is for them. So I'm still very excited about this. I'm looking forward to finishing it. I'm going to leave a little tickler out there in that I'm not going to let you know when we're going to finish the building. We'll give you that on June 19th. But it will not be July, so that's all I'm going to say about that, but we'll give you that new finish date. I did want to report all the glasses in the building, so that's pretty exciting. We'd been waiting on some last pieces. It was a little bit. Mike, Councilman De Leon is my hero. There actually was a bad piece of glass up there in that atrium.
Oh, right.
I actually drove by it between a half a dozen to a dozen times, and it's like a facet on a ring. Every time I drove by it, it was hard for me to tell the reflection from the buildings up opposite. What was the light coming through? Was there drywall on there? I probably almost caused like 3 accidents at that intersection because I was driving so slow and slamming on my brake thinking I saw something. But there actually was a piece that's bad. We're not sure if the seal actually broke on the window or if it was just a defect when we got it and we didn't notice it until it had been up for a length of time. That will be coming down and we will replace that piece as well. So thank you very much for encouraging me and asking me to go and look again. I'm telling you it's out there. You were absolutely correct. We're in the process right now of installing all of our insulation and the drywall, as you can see in those pictures, are going up. Fire stopping started this week, and we're getting all of that in, so we'll be able to enclose our ceilings and make sure that all that work is done. The interior signs are in the review and beginning of fabrication as well. And BCI brought out our tech and IAL, the group companies that do our mechanical, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. They did a walkthrough, a preliminary walkthrough for looking for what we would call punch list items. For all the work that's been done, and this is the first time they've walked through that building in a year and a half, they found 5 things. So it's good news for our contractor. They're following what they're supposed to be doing what the building codes are, and making sure that that work is getting done. With that said, we had one other question that came up, and that was whether or not we had bollards down in front of that main entrance coming off of Water and Haymaker. And the answer is yes, absolutely. If you take a look at the little invitation in front of you, you'll see there are bollards that go all the way around, and there'll be some brick that comes out that kind of creates that welcoming effect into that. But that is what will be out there to protect there. So I did want to reassure you, we actually discussed this today. Because of the elevations down there and how close it is to the pavement, we are going to be spot on, or it's going to look like those bollards are floating. So we're a little nervous getting ready to start to install that. You should see about mid this month to the end of this month, you'll begin to see that site work start working. The fences will come down temporarily so we can get that site work in. We do want to wait now for the front because we want to replace that glass, and we don't want to sit any kind of lift or anything on those new sidewalks. So that may come a little bit later now. But you'll begin to see that site work happening here at the end of this month going into July. They say that should take us about 6 to 8 weeks, which would take us then into September. But then it will, again, have a completely different face for you once that site work is done. So we are moving along. I'm pleased with where we are. Again, it's very exciting when you go inside, and I think that you'll be pleased with what you see on the 19th. The only thing that I do ask, again, like we did the other time that we went through, but more importantly now, because we have more people, more stuff, more materials inside that building, please make sure that you're wearing solid soled shoes and full foot coverings when you come through, as well as just make sure that you're kind of covered, and then just be cognizant of what's around you. We will have hard hats for everybody. That is required when we go in because of site safety for both Tamari's as well as us. So I look forward to seeing everybody on the 19th at 6 p.m.
Okay, questions, anybody? No, Melanie, thank you, good job.
Thank you.
And we understand the delay, so don't worry about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that's it for committee. Let's move into community development, Ms. Rosenberg.
Yep. So Bridget is going to come up to discuss event permits.
Yes, this is a no action item tonight. We're just going to present some information that we've collected and gathered and get some insights from council, and then we'll use that to formalize more of an event permit policy and be bringing that back to you for your authorization. So there was a motion by council to look at the way that the event permit process was being administered by the city. I will say that was actually a very prudent suggestion because it had not been looked at for a long time, and we have gone through significant changes in our downtown. So it was very good that we did look at that. We did it through various means. We did send out a brief online survey to 110 downtown businesses, and I'm happy to report we had 31 responses back. That's like 28%. I mean, I'm a statistics geek, and you do not get that kind of response on surveys, so I was pretty excited about that. We also collected information on the permitting process from other communities, from 5 other communities, and then we held discussions with various downtown businesses after a recent event. Those were done anonymously and with the qualitative information just on some feedback that we had got regarding how that event particularly affected certain businesses, both positive, negative, and neutral. So based on some of this information, there are some key points that came out of it that we want to bring up and then talk about some ideas that staff has been considering with regards to the process. Event road closures right now are pretty much somebody asks and we process the permit and we cordoned off the area as requested. Sometimes there's discussion at council if it's a new event or an expansion, but for the most part, if it's been an event that's been going on, or even if they are coming back and it's an event that's adding for additional space, there's really, it's something that's pretty much just granted. I think that we need to be considering, and I don't actually have a number, but if a road closure is actually utilized with regards to the number of patrons that attend the event. Sometimes people close the road and honestly the foot traffic could be accommodated on the sidewalks. So then we wouldn't be closing off a portion of town where our businesses are operating and where cars need to travel through. Like I said, I don't have a number, but I do know that some of the feedback I got on the survey was that some of the events that have been going on for a long time and don't have high attendance. So I do think that maybe we should have some kind of threshold or criteria for that. Events that require road closures can be located in other areas. Everybody always goes to North Water and East Main. You know, those are main entrances into the city, and there are businesses that are adversely affected because of the road closures, and also, you're also not getting foot traffic for some of the other businesses that are a block or two away. Quite honestly, if we want to get people traversing through town and walking past our businesses, moving it a block over to Erie, or even the South Water Street lot that the city controls over in the evenings on the weekends, would make sense. I'm not saying for every event, but we really do need to look at it. If it's an event, for example, that has a lot of vendor booths, the Craft Beer Fest, where we have beer trucks, it's a large footprint. It may be advisable to put an event like that in the South Water Street lot. It would obviously be able to be controlled, and people would need to park in downtown and walk a block or two to get to that event and pass by some of our stores. You know, I recognize that that may not still result in additional increase in businesses. However, it creates the opportunity for people to stop, window shop, and look. Right now, we have that area cordoned off, and people get out, they park just by the event, and they don't go in a block or two to those other areas of town. Another thing is that closing a portion of both North Water Street and East Main Street for a single event should be strictly limited. It should really only happen to Heritage Fest. If there was any negativity that came out of the survey, it was that the event that closed both East Main Street and North Water was not good. Businesses were not happy. It eliminated both ways into town for many, and so I think we need to look at that. I know we do it for Heritage Fest, but that's almost expected. That event has been run for years that way. If we're going to do it, it really needs to be judicious. It needs to be large in scope. It needs to be one that's maybe open and not one where you have to pay to get in and service just their vendors. It should be something like Heritage Fest where you freely walk in. You get to, you know, people can come and go as they please versus paying to get a wristband and going in and having certain things, because that did not sit well with some of the businesses that spoke anonymously. And I'm not going to reference those businesses, but I can tell you that it was an issue. I also think that another feedback that we got was that one of the events was actually closed roads on commencement day of our HS High School, Roosevelt High School. Shame on us, quite honestly. We should really be cognizant of the commencement dates of both the university and the high school, and events should be prohibited on those days. We want our roads open. I know that when both my kids graduated high school and college, we took them out to dinner after the graduation celebration. So to have North Water and Main Street closed on RHS commencement day was probably not advisable. So that is something that I also think that we need to put in those guidelines. Another thing that, and again, I'm going to open this up and get feedback from council, but I think I want to close with, we recognize that there needs to be a point person on staff. Patty issues the permits, and she does an amazing job coordinating all that. But a lot of that coordination goes into creating the memorandum of understanding, which collects basically the hours and time that, and of what that would cost in order to close the event. But the reality is, we don't charge an event fee for nonprofits. So we spent a lot of time running an MOU around, Patty coordinating, getting all that information from various city departments. But if it's a nonprofit, it's literally just so we have the number. We don't charge a fee. So it's not really probably the best utilization of anyone's time. And we need to have a discussion, because one person that held an event for Earth Day and had many vendors, she was a for-profit and had to pay a fee and ended up basically coming out with a loss because the MOU had such a large amount. And I get it, those are costs, but you know, I've said this many times, some of you members may have heard it, but we're in government. Our job isn't to make money, it's to serve the public. So we need to decide what value we're going to assign on those events. If we're going to collect all that information on how much it's going to cost for service and fire and police and everyone to man that event, but then not charge for it, but then we charge for profit, that's just probably not the most balanced approach to issuing permits. So I think we need to look and consider possibly doing a flat fee that applies to all, or a nominal fee, or figure out what we want to charge for, rather than this is how many minimum hours central maintenance has because they have to put out the road barricades. Maybe it's just we do a flat fee for each event. We did get pricing from other communities. It's all over the page, I can tell you that. There is no consistency to it, so we need to look at our community, look at some of those MOUs of what they came in cost-wise. Patty gave me a number on average of about $1,300, give or take. So that's an average. We do have some that are obviously much higher and much lower, but maybe there's a value where we just say that for this much, this is what we're going to charge, flat fee for a nonprofit, flat fee for a for-profit, so people know ahead of time what that cost is going to be, and then they can decide what they want to charge their vendors for that amount. And then I think also Patty spins a million plates. I talk to her on a lot of stuff, and I think we need to have a staff person assigned proactively ahead of a year to be monitoring the events. We can figure out who that is. I've got two in mind that I won't say here. I think I've shared with Dave. Where they're actually proactively getting those event schedules from our nonprofits that put these events on, and then as they come in, they're screening and filtering. Do we have too many events that day? Is that RHS's high school graduation? They're asking for this. Well, we already have that road closed the month before for another event. They're going to need to look at a different area. Someone that's kind of looking at that more of that logistic ways, and if we have those set guidelines, they'll be able to go through that as a checklist and determine it. So we're more proactive, because right now we are passively accepting and just approving, and that's worked until it doesn't. And based on the feedback we're getting from some of our downtown businesses, we need to bring events that promote and encourage people to walk through our downtown versus just stay cordoned off in a certain area. Online shopping has made it challenging. People don't just go walk around a town anymore. So if we're going to have the events to draw crowds in, we need to make sure that we're getting them to actually go through our downtown. So I will stop talking right now, and I can take any comments or feedback from anyone that might guide us as we try to formalize this into something we bring back later.
Questions from council? Yes, Jerry.
You're on the right track. I want to tell you, our downtown isn't really palatable to have all these different sizes of festival. But I noticed on the news the last couple of weeks, there's two cities, and I'm trying to think what the name were, are not doing festivals because of the in-kind services, the burden that's putting on the city's budget. And if I sit here long enough, I'll come up with it. But there's other cities looking at this. So, nobody really knows what the in-kind service. I kind of have an idea because I've kept track of it with Heritage Festival and that. But that in-kind service is a burden. And like I said, I've seen two cities up towards Cleveland on the lake that are suspended some of the festivals just because of that. So you're on the right track, Bridget.
Any further, Mr. Mayor? All good? Okay. Heidi, yes?
Yeah, well, I'm interested, of course, in learning how the businesses view what we're doing, and it is our job to take a holistic perspective, not just take one side or another. So I guess I think it is good to take a look at and refresh our policies and make sure that what we're doing is effective in serving the businesses, but we're also serving the citizens as a whole. So we don't want to just make this about the businesses. I went down to the Art and Wine Festival, and I thought, oh, everybody's going to be at the Art and Wine Festival. The whole town was rocking. You know, it wasn't just about that festival. Everywhere I went, you know, we went out to dinner afterwards, and, you know, let me tell you, it was a long wait. And it was great to see that. I really think that our festivals put Kent on the map for the wider area. I heard a lot on the radio talk about the Art and Wine Festival and others. And I just think that everyone else now is getting these ideas about becoming a destination place. And so we need to keep up some kind of, we need to keep up festivals and reasons to come to Kent. I mean, many of us locals, we're going to go downtown. But we want to keep bringing in fresh people into the downtown. And maybe they won't walk through, or maybe they will. But what I would love to do is do some kind of survey, like on the street, find out how many people have come to Kent for a festival and they're coming back as a result, or to the Kent stage, and they looked around and said, wow, this great town, we're busy right now, we're going to this festival, we're going to this show, but we're going to make it a point to come back and just hang out and go shopping and take in the whole downtown. So I know the business owners, you know, they do strike up conversations, so it would be kind of interesting to find out what kind of businesses, what drives people back to Kent, you know, after they visit, you know, if it's so I guess it is very important to understand the business perspective and certainly not get in the way of business, and try to be a little smarter about it. So I do like, you know, the tweaks and things like that, and taking into consideration especially what else is going on, so we don't become an impediment. We don't drive people away. Yeah. So all that is very important. I just wanted to say that I think it's still really important to continue to do these activities that bring people here and freshen up those activities too from time to time. I'm looking at Heather. She's doing such a good job.
Further, Heidi?
Nope.
Roger?
Well, a couple things. I agree with the mayor to some extent that I think there has to be a balance, obviously, and I think that I think this was wise to take a look at that, because, you know, we tend to do the same things over and over again and expect different results, and it's the same old, same old. So I think it's wise to take a look at it. You know, and speaking of what Heidi was talking about, festivals are wonderful, but if we have storefronts that are vacant because people are not going in there because they are not having access to it when they're here, then we need to think about that. And we need to think smartly about traffic patterns. We need to think about smartly how do we make sure that the festivals are drawing people here, but how do we wayfare them? I think, is Jim Bowling? Jim Bowling's not here. He taught me that word, right? That we're supposed to be doing wayfaring, right?
Wayfinding.
When they come in, yeah, is that what it is? Well, yeah, I half listened to him. But I think, I guess the question I have is, has the time come where we should have a legitimate community calendar that is done a year ahead of time? That right now, we should know what everything is going to happen starting, let's say, September through September 24 to September 25. And should we, and that doesn't mean that we don't have room to, if something new comes up, because obviously there could be something new. But is the time come in this community? Now, I know Kent State creates a little bit of a problem, because they could put 6 million things on that calendar. So I think that it's our responsibility to, dare I say, figure out what's the most important to least important. They're all important, as Heidi said. They're all important. But it's time that we look ahead and we actually create a master calendar a year ahead of time, like most organizations do. And our community is an organization. I think that should be part of the conversation. And the other thing that I would say as a question is that is it time? I know we do these surveys and everything, but is it time to really get out and find out the actual financial benefit to the community in terms of our businesses? And obviously the rollover is then the tax. Is there a way that we could get at that? Because it's one thing to draw people here, it's another thing to get the data to support what we're saying. I believe it to be true. Don't get me wrong. I believe that, yeah, we draw lots of people here. But do they come back on non-festival days? Do they come and buy popcorn on non-festival days because they were here for a festival? I don't know how we do that, but I think those are tough questions, and
Yeah.
I think I
Some
agree
of
with
them
you.
will be
You're on the
challenging
right
to
track.
answer. I will say that there were all over the page responses, because some events were positively ranked by people that replied to the survey. Some weren't, but there was no
Sure.
one where it was like, oh my gosh, this event is one that people have problems with, and this is one that everybody finds great. There was basically ended up some people loved it, some people were like neutral, some were like, didn't really do much for me. Just depended on what they were selling and stuff. And we did get information on if they were a retail versus a restaurant or a bar versus a professional service provider. But it's, I think it's a lot of, this type is a little anecdotal. I think that sometimes it's not that we don't want to support events. Of course we do. We just need to be more thoughtful about the process.
Right. Yeah, I support it.
Jeff, do you have a question?
Yeah, Roger actually said a lot of what I was going to say, but we can't have empty storefronts at the cost of events. And I think I read in April, 42% of small businesses failed to pay their full rent. So I think that empty storefronts are more of a reality than we might want to think it is. So I think adapting, like when downtown was fresh and new, it was a very different playing field than it was through the pandemic and through it is now. I don't understand how the economy still is sustaining itself in any way. So I think we need constant adapting probably over the next few years to see exactly what we're going to do. And a lot of the feedback you got, I have a lot of friends that own business downtown. I got a lot of the same feedback. And certain ones that feel like they're just getting cut off at the knees over and over and over again. So I think being hypercritical to hang on to what we have, because I think holding on to what we have is going to be a lot easier than trying to get new businesses in there in the future. And then I had one specific question about KSU on their event. Do they have Erie Street and Water Street? When they do their welcome weekend?
No,
Uh-uh.
we did it on Esplanade.
Yeah, they did it on
They're
the
ju- Okay, so there's nothing closed downtown for them?
No.
Okay, I just want to
Yeah.
check in on that.
Actually, if I could just, I don't think that, I think that it actually is, I think the plan right now is to close Hometown Plaza and Erie,
Is
if I'm
it?
not mistaken. I'm looking at Heather, and she's making a face that makes me think that. Well, Heather, you know what? I'm chairing it, so go ahead and weigh in on it.
Flash's first Thursday meeting was, I think, yesterday. If my days may be blurring together right now, but the plan is to close North Water Street from the intersection to Columbus, and then Erie Street, just the chunk between the Esplanade and the hotel, the Peister, and because they're hoping to get 1,000 to 2,000 students to come down for this. So they're going to stop in this Erie Street area, and then they're going to keep going, and then outside of downtown, businesses can set up in those areas with tents and spin the wheel and whatnot. And then the Michael Weber show is at the Bank Plaza from 7 to 9. So that's two
different spots.
two
Okay.
different spots that I don't know if it's gone through here yet, but that's what they talked about yesterday.
Oh, okay. All right, so there's our.
Is that something we can look at, the necessity of the Water Street closure then for that? Like, I don't know, based on numbers, if that requires that street to be closed as well.
I'll check with Patty. If there was already like a permit approved and it's going through the MOU process.
Here we
Oh,
go. We
come
have to
on
see.
down,
All right, go
Chief.
on.
Let's
So the permits, they come through the police department. A lot of times they're processed by our operations captain. So that permit has been at least processed through city staff, and city staff has signed off on the MOU for Flash's First Thursday with the closures that were discussed.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is for Destination Kent?
It's Flash's First Thursday. It's essentially just
Is that what you're gonna
a
call it now?
rebranded version of.
Same thing?
We used to do it up on,
Further, Jeff.
No, that's all I have.
Okay. Did you have a comment, Roger?
no, I just thought we used to do that up on the Black Squirrel, right?
When they first started doing it,
Yeah.
we did East Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And somehow it rotated up by the hotel and part of deck.
Correct.
But then they moved it up on the Esplanade, but we found out what was happening. The kids would come up there and go around in different booths, but they wouldn't go downtown. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am, Heather, the idea behind this is to make the kids welcome to Kent and let them know what we have downtown Kent. So what we're doing on the Esplanade wasn't really doing the job to acclimate the kids to downtown. Am I right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because a lot of the, I feel like they did some surveys too, and even in terms of downtown businesses that we've talked to, it's always an underwhelming representation of students. Most of our businesses live off our town folk and the visitors, like Heidi talked about. Yes, there's some students, and certainly, as Bridget likes to say, after midnight or whatever, the students are probably a predominant customer downtown, but they're very specific businesses like the bars.
Nothing good.
And so a big Kent State recognizes that that is an underutilized resource, and so they're trying to get the kids downtown. So I think in this case, it was a very intentional decision to, like she said, have one spot up there and then a second one to force them down there and say, as you're getting down there, you're going to see what else so you can come back because you're here, but you don't tend to go downtown. I do want to add too, you all have said it, but I just want to make sure it is said, because we aren't here to eliminate or any of that. We want to sharpen the methodologies that we use and sort of recalibrate how people move and come and get to downtown with these festivals. That was really the genesis of this conversation. It was really just what streets need to be closed. Now, once we're looking at it, we start talking about a lot of other stuff too. And I think it is fair game to say, maybe there are some that we don't really want to continue to support, but that's not on our agenda at all. We recognize that events have become, as Heidi said, very much a part of the Kent brand. It's how we advertise. It's why we finance, Main Street Kent at a reasonably high level, because we see the importance, and not just to, as Heidi's point, not just to the businesses, but the community. It's a community amenity. I can't tell you how many younger families that I've seen come here. When I talk to them, they say, "Oh, we love the stuff that's downtown, and we can walk down there, and we take our, children of various ages down there, depending on the event, Wizardly World, and So we are not in any way here to suggest we're going to backpedal on that. We did all that investment downtown to create a platform for this stuff to hum. What we said is, it's changed in 10, 12 years now. We need to revisit it and really just better optimize how we're doing it. And I think that was sort of the spirit when I think Gwen first made the motion. It was kind of like, hey, I'm not anti-festival, but can we do it in a way that's mutually supportive of the festival and the downtown businesses that are bricks and mortar and here week after week, day after day. That's really our intention. And we've talked about, as she said, some of these various, do we push them around? Maybe we move them up to different parts of the town to see how it works in those different areas, get exposure, and just see how the traffic patterns respond, right? That's kind of the intention behind all this. And I was also going to say, I know we sit around the table and we think about what we might know. Am I not correct, Heather? You actually do like debriefing after events, and you poll your members to get data about Was this a good event for you? So while we did do a survey, you do that routinely, yes? And I don't know, is there anything you want to share? I'm not trying to force you to the mic, but no? I feel like you have regular, much more data than we've collected. What are you seeing and hearing?
We're asking everybody that's involved. Like, so for Art and Wine, we just send out a thing, like, for the participants, the artists, the wineries, the volunteers, the people, and then, like, is it worth your while? What did you like about it? What could we do better? But I've always, not always, I learned quickly in this job that it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So not all events should be in like the prime downtown spot, or if the road is closed this time and you see that it's not doing what you were thinking it was going to do, change it. And like Wizardly is the perfect example. Like, you know, how many times that event's been on the chopping block? Like, this is a lot of work, and is it really worth it? And there's so many people, and then there's less people. And like, okay, well, let's move the little vendor thing over here and get the businesses to say, yes, we want this, and we will help make it happen. And then people will walk around and traverse the city to get to what is being offered. So they're just not all the same. Like, what are you doing the event for? Like, for Main Street, it's coffers, but equally as important is the businesses. Like, if we don't have the coffers, then we're not, the staff of two just goes away. But the businesses are telling me, how was this day for you compared to last year when we didn't have the event? And the response is always at least okay, if not like, oh, 500% better. My God, please do this again. Do this every quarter. Like, no, we're not. But like, you just have to fine tune it as you go. Just have some self-awareness. Like, don't just set up and try to do your thing and assume that you know what you're, be humbled by, like, oh, that wasn't so good. Like, let's fix this, or let's kill it. I think there's an evaluation process that should be happening from all the organizations that are putting on events.
And see, that's it's shining a light on the fact we drew the same conclusion. Heather and Main Street, because they have years of experience, they're professionals. I mean, they're professionals. And there's a distinct difference between the events that they run versus the others. And we're not anti-others, but they're seat of their pants kind of thing, and they're flying in and hoping it works out, right? And they don't necessarily have that basis, that foundation. And that's where Bridget is saying we've identified maybe we need to be more involved in those decision-making, less for her stuff, although we certainly will help her as much as we can, but she doesn't need much help. What needs help are the other events that are just people that have a good cause and they want to come together and let's do this. Yeah, they don't really know what they're doing. and
but close the roads, right? Yeah.
All right. So that's where we're heading with this thing, is maybe we take a more active role, a couple of our staff, maybe the process itself. We just wanted to make sure you all were of a similar mindset. We didn't want to be heading in a direction and you're like, whoa, turn the train around. So that's kind of what we're here for. I think you've got a flavor for where we're thinking, and that's right.
When I drive through town on the day after an event, I'm like, please don't let it look like anything was happening here last night. That's my mindset. And there are others where I drive through town and I'm like, my God, they didn't even, things are overflowing, and like, why? I have a checklist of like 85 things that have to happen for every event, from getting your date and your event permit and writing thank yous and sponsorship sheets and ordering trash bags and the dumpster and the porta potty. Like, there's 10 million things to do, and that all costs tens of thousands of dollars. So everybody's not doing the same thing out there. So close the road, and we're gonna have a fill in the blank. I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but like, they're just not all the same. So I don't know how you monitor that, but we're happy to help. We want it to go well for others too. Other people are trying to raise money for certain things, but having a variety of locations for that, I think, is a great idea. I'm gonna go.
Robin.
I'm kind of intrigued by the new personnel aspect. Ultimately, the objective on what our expectations will be, what will be the general benefit to the city. we're clarifying things, lifting some burden from some of our business owners. What is the overall benefit we're going to derive at the end of the day from having the new person?
Well, it's more of the overall objective is to ensure that we're being thoughtful about events and not just passively approving them, looking at them and saying, all right, this one's requesting, several blocks closed on our main street, and coming up with those criteria to evaluate, is that really the best location for that event, or would it be better for that event to be located somewhere else? Some events, I think, just out of habit for so long have asked for road closures that maybe the attendance has fallen a little bit. I do think there's a difference between events where the road's closed, but it's more of an open field, than ones that are specific to a cordoned off area. So we have to look at all of that. The goal is to have people come to our town for events, but make sure those events are a positive experience and are balanced between the needs of the event holder, who typically is usually having them to raise funds or to promote a concept or an idea, as well as the businesses that are already in town. Because right now it's a very passive process. It's a process we've been doing. I've been here 16 years, and it's been like this the entire time I've been here. So we've built a downtown since I've been here, and I think it's time that maybe we look at this and the feedback we got. And I think, having it in different parts of town is a good idea. And we just need to come up with a process to look at that and some other variables.
Roger.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, did you have something else, Robin?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask Heather something. The aspect of that kind of untapped, well, semi-tapped resource, which is the student population. And of course, that's a double-edged sword, bringing a lot of students into a community where you have already, there is some tension with the general populace. Have we been able to understand, since they're here, why there aren't more of them participating in the economy of the city? I mean, have we had
I'm just going to pause. I'm not. It might be outside of the scope.
Yeah.
And then and Heather isn't making a formal presentation, so I don't want to put her on the spot right now to speak for student and downtown
well, this is just
participation.
general, yeah, I'm not asking anything.
Oh, okay. So if you have a question for Bridget, I think that would work, and then I'm certain that Heather will weigh in down the road, I think, with that kind of thing.
Or we can ask Dana when next time she's here,
Dana,
too.
it might be a
A
good
Kent
question
State
for Dana,
question?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably more of a Kent State question. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Did you have it? Are you all set, Robin? And Roger, do you have a question?
Yeah, two things. Bridget, first of all, can you clarify for me, we're not talking about hiring a new person?
No.
We're talking about reassigning.
We're just making, having somebody that's already working in
Okay.
these types of activities be looking at this. I think I've had one or two things added to my plate since I've been here under that other duties as assigned.
Right.
So we're going to share a little bit of that with some other. I mean, it's not a huge burden. I
Right.
think we're going to all work collectively to come up with
Sure.
guidelines, bring them back to you, and then have somebody just as part of their thing, just be more proactive in looking at that.
Would an unreasonable outcome, my second question, would an unreasonable outcome, and getting a little bit to what Heather says, that when and I drive through town too after events, and sometimes it's been handled well by the sponsoring organization, and sometimes it hasn't. Yeah, are we looking at maybe refining the expectations of the whoever's putting the event on, and being very specific of the expectations, and then hold them accountable?
Yes, because I do think that our permitting process right now does not have some of that specificity with regards to, setup and breakdown, particularly breakdown, and the responsibilities that are ancillary to that, including, making sure you're looking outside the footprint of your event, and just to see where else we might need to have trash, and making sure the volunteers are understanding that they should be coming back and looking at different things. So yes, that's our goal.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Bridget, this idea, and don't get against it, moving the festivals around. But we gotta take in consideration, we got two gathering points downtown, Hometown Plaza Bank and Dan Smith's Community Park. So those are used very highly, or a lot in the festival, so we kinda have to somehow put them still in the program.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Any more from council? And this is informational, so you don't need an
Right,
action
so we'll
right now.
put together
Okay.
some guidelines and get those back to council to look at, and then, that way then we can sharpen the process and the plan based on the feedback we received through this process as well as tonight.
Okay, and then just real quickly, is there anyone from the audience who hasn't had a chance that'd like to say something? Okay, very good. All right. Thank you very much, Bridget. Much appreciated.
Okay, moving on in Finance Committee, Mr. DeLeon.
Operating resolution.
Yeah, this is the next step procedurally. You've already considered this and approved the process, but this now is step number 2, I guess you would say.
This is the proceeding. You have to proceed. So first, after you approve the last ordinance or resolution to move forward with the renewal of the tax levy, we then had to certify the amount with the county, which we did, and we received that we're going to get about $340,000 this year, or the year after. And then now we have to do this resolution to proceed, so that way we can get the resolution to the Board of Elections to get it on the ballot.
Pretty much a housekeeping thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Questions? Anyone in the audience? Back to council.
Move to authorize with
With
the
emergency.
emergency.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You'll be back. I see your name down here. a
Thanks for
couple
the warning.
times. Joan? Oh, she's
All
already
right,
up there.
Joan.
She's on
Very
the ball.
timely. Thank you for this time. So I'm here again with several grants, one new, two that are extensions or renewals. So do you want me to go through them one by one, or talk about them all and then?
Whichever you want.
Well,
You could do them any which way you like.
well,
How is
thank you.
that?
Thank you for your time. So,
We're here to
the first
listen.
one is a new grant that we want to go for, which is Creating Healthy Communities. It's the parent grant to the Healthy Eating and Active Living. And because Jaleesa managed that one so well, this became open to us. This would be quite a bit of an increase, up to $100,000. A portion of it would be used for an intern salary, and the remaining would be used to meet the deliverables of the grant. So we're excited to get permission to apply for that and hopefully be awarded. The other one is the Emergency Operations Grant, and this is an extension from COVID. There's leftover COVID dollars, but they're still seeing that there's upgrades that need to happen in public health, and so I have requested $74,237 that would be for intern salary, travel and training of staff, professional services, and then a portion of that would also go to the rent of the part of the building. And then the third and final one is the Environmental Protection Agency. This is also a renewal grant for $25,000, and this is for our mosquito or vector program to help keep that under control. The state will be testing for more than just West Nile. I think there's 3 other vector-borne illnesses that they're going to be testing for. So we'd like to continue, since we've seen an uptick in those things, continue to monitor for the health of our community. So I have those 3 grants to present.
Is there any questions about any of the 3 grants? Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve. Second.
With the emergency.
With emergency.
With emergency.
Second by
Melissa.
Melissa. I thought I heard something. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There you go.
Passes. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Joe.
Rhonda's back.
She's back.
Rhonda's smiling because she's going to propose saving some money, so she likes it.
I like
so.
it.
We all like that.
So for this one, we have 2 bond issues that were done in 2013 and 2014. The 2013 bond issue was callable last year. The 2014 bond is callable this December. So the earliest we can do that would be this coming September. In talking to our financial manager, they are suggesting that we call both of the bonds. We have a third one that can be called, but not until next year. But they're suggesting that we call it, and the present value of the debt service is approximately $463,000. The savings of for the 2 bond issues over the life of the bond is over $600,000 as of right now, or that is technically as of April 30th. As we get closer to, if you approve this, as we get closer to the bond issue date of September, they would look to see what is the market, what is the thought process. If it doesn't give us enough savings, we will nix the whole refunding. But at this point, we're looking at about a $600,000 life of the bond savings.
Wow.
Because of interest rates.
Questions? No questions. Everybody likes to save money.
Yeah, good job.
Haven't yet.
Well, I was gonna say, well, you never know. You say there's a
Could be
chance.
higher too, depending upon
There's
how
a
the market
chance.
goes, right.
Right.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to say anything? Back to council.
Move to authorize with the emergency.
Second.
Discussion?
No, other than, thank you, Rhonda,
Absolutely.
for having that insight.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thank you. Now we're doing.
The next item is the appropriation amendment number 3. We were going to wait until July, but Mr. Bowling had a project that's on the board for Walnut Street, and they want to sign the contract. And in order to sign it, we have to get it budgeted, so that's the amendment.
Questions? You're making it easy tonight. Anyone in the audience? Back to council? With the emergency?
Second.
Further discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into health, public safety, Mr. Amon.
Yes, the first item on the agenda is Police Ohio Collaborations Certification. Chief Sheriff.
Good evening, and thank you for some time this evening. So first off, before I jump into the Ohio Collaborative, I passed out one of these to all of you. This is our 2023 annual report. I guess to first recognize Kathy Coleman. She's the one who compiles this and takes all the photos herself, and she does a really, really good job of organizing and just I guess the aesthetics of it are very pleasing. So she does a really good job. If I could just take a second to walk you through it. The first page is just a message from me. After that, there's notable cases from 2023, followed by some descriptions and tasks of all of our different divisions and some of the programs that we offer. There's a page about training. It touches on some of the continuing professional training that we all have to go through every year, followed by employee recognition, Supervisor of the Year, Officer of the Year, and Civilian of the Year, and then some other awards there. Just some ceremonial stuff from throughout the year, followed by a couple other programming things. One of the things that we added, again, at Kathy's suggestion, was an FAQ page in here, which is, it's kind of nice. It's something that, this gets posted on our website as well, so just an FAQ for the community. This photo there. Followed by our statistics, and one of the things, and part of why I wanted to mention this, some of our statistics they're reported in different ways. Some of our statistics get reported in the federal government in some ways, but if you look at page 14, one of the statistics that is listed here is the Ohio Collaborative traffic stop statistics. That is one of the standards of the Ohio Collaborative, that we collect demographic information on the driver of every vehicle that we stop, and we have to essentially publish that for community viewing on an annual basis. So if you look there, it shows that breakdown of the demographics related to our traffic stops. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move into the Ohio Collaborative stuff?
Sure have a nice building on the front cover.
We do have a very nice building. So if nobody has any questions on that, I'll jump into the Ohio Collaborative. I want to start off by giving a little bit of education on what the Ohio Collaborative is and what it was born from. So in December of 2014, Governor Kasich signed an executive order to commission the Ohio Task Force on Community Police Relations. It was a 24-member board. It had representatives from the governor's office, the state legislature, the attorney general's office, the Supreme Court, local law enforcement, labor organizations, community leaders, faith-based community leaders, the business community, different municipalities, and local prosecuting attorneys. At the completion of this kind of blue ribbon panels discussions and community meetings that they put together, they established what is now known as the Ohio Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board in April of 2015. This is a board now that essentially took that initial report and they look at police community relations, and they develop standards that they want police departments to abide by throughout the state of Ohio. There is no requirement that police departments abide by these standards. There can at times be implications of grant funding if you don't comply with the standards. That being said, I've yet to see a grant that says you must abide by the standards, even though they tell you that it could be tied to grant funding. So I will say that we've always taken pride in our department in complying with the standards and in meeting the standards that the Ohio Collaborative puts out. Currently there are 6 different groups, and within those groups they have standards in several different categories. The current categories that they have standards in are police use of force, police recruitment and hiring, police community engagement, body-worn cameras, telecommunicator training, bias-free policing, investigation of employee misconduct, vehicle pursuits, law enforcement response to protests and mass demonstrations, agency wellness, developmentally appropriate policing and positive youth interactions, and crisis intervention. So those are all the different categories that they currently have standards in. So obviously, like I said, this started in 2015 when former Chief Lee was still here and was the chief. And the first several standards came out during her tenure as chief, and like I said, we've always taken pride in this, and Chief Lee did a really good job of setting that bar and making sure we were in compliance and certified on the standards that came out when she was the chief. In continuing that, we have always looked at those standards really closely as soon as they're put out and look into what we can do as a police department to make sure that we're in compliance with those standards. One of the things that's really nice for us is I think we've all been a fairly progressive police department in terms of policy and practice. And generally speaking, when standards have been put out, we've already been doing the things that they say we should be in compliance with. That's something, like I said, that we kind of take pride in, is trying to stay on that cutting edge. In light of trying to stay on that cutting edge, several years ago, I think it was in 2020, Mr. Reller and I had a conversation, and we decided to essentially contract with an outside policy writing organization called Lexipol. They don't do only police stuff, but they were initially born out of the police policy writing side of things. They also do fire department policies and actually have citywide policies as well. But what they do is they have essentially the top police legal advisor attorneys in the country that consult with them and look at everything from a legal standpoint, and they also do best practice industry standard studies, and their policies are all written in a way that are industry best practice standards in compliance with state, federal, and local laws. One of the nice things about that is it's forced us to take a look at our policies and make sure that we are staying on that cutting edge. If there's a law update or a change in best practices in the industry, they push out an update to us within days of those updates coming out. Lexipol also works very closely with the Ohio Collaborative, and generally speaking, when a new Ohio Collaborative standard comes out, Lexipol has already gotten the language from the Ohio Collaborative, and they push out an update to us, again, within days of that new standard coming out. So it really helps us stay on the front side of that and stay in compliance with all of that. The nice thing that I like about Lexipol is they know the best practices, they know the law issues and stuff like that. What they don't claim to know is your particular expectations within your department. So it's a collaborative effort. It's not just them saying, here, this is your new policy. It's them saying, here's your new policy. Here are the sections that are legal, that are best practices. Here are the sections that you want to take a look at some of your stuff and make sure if you want to edit these and stuff, you can do that. So it's kind of nice. It's a collaborative effort with them. But that's really helped us stay on that front side of the Ohio Collaborative stuff and making sure that we're certified. So a big part of why I wanted to come and speak tonight is we just received our provisional certification in the most updated standards that are out. So we are now provisionally certified in all the Ohio Collaboratives groups that they have out. And you can't certify necessarily in one standard at a time. So a group comes out and it might be 3 standards. So we have to do some legwork and reporting, and it's sometimes a process of us going back and forth with the collaborative staff and pointing out things in our policy to them so they can see where we're in compliance and stuff. One of the things that I do want to point out, as I mentioned, it's a provisional certification. The way that the Ohio Collaborative works is they only issue provisional certifications until they come and do an on-site inspection. They only do on-site inspections every 3 years. So it's kind of strange. We went from fully certified to meeting new requirements, and now we're only provisionally certified. And it's only because since we met those new requirements in the new groups, they haven't been back now, since we just did it, to do an on-site inspection. So now our status goes from fully certified to provisionally certified. It's kind of confusing, and when I first saw it, I thought it seemed a little bit backwards. But one other thing real quick that I'd like to point out is in preparation for this, I was looking at everything, and then just last week this came to us in the mail, and we are now officially certified as a gold standard for excellence in law enforcement policy management. So it just came last week. This came when we were having this discussion tonight. I thought it was appropriate to share tonight. So I kind of went over that quickly.
Do you want to comment at all? So some of this conversation, some of you have been around the table long enough to remember, there was also a question, I think, that came from council at some point about the Obama administration's 21st century policing, which is kind of the similar thing on the national level, right?
It is.
And one of the, and again, we were very much on the front edge of that and very proud of that. But also keep in mind, one of the gaps that we had, we owe you a big thanks because you authorized us to go ahead and spend money to get the body cameras. Because remember, that was Ben for us. We've wanted them, but how can we afford them? We've wanted them, how can we afford them? And it got to the point where, like, you can't afford not to have them. And you all supported that, so we appreciate it. Nick helped. He found grant funding and so forth, but really, you giving us the green light on that, check that box for body cameras, and I don't know, you want to say anything about how that's gone?
It's been phenomenal for us, and I would tell you right now that if you poll our police officers, they're thrilled to wear a body camera. One of the things that's really helped us from an administrative standpoint is most of the time, if we get somebody who comes in and complains about something, an interaction with an officer, 5 years ago that was okay, we have to do a full internal investigation. Anybody who's been a part of any organization that has to investigate their employees at times knows that immediately causes tension. Even if the officer, even if it comes out in the end that everybody did everything right, it causes tension. Nobody likes to be investigated. One of the things that body cameras has given us the ability to do is we look at the body camera, we watch the body camera. We can make a fairly quick determination whether or not we need to look into it further or not. So it's actually decreased the amount of times that we actually have to do formal investigations and things like that. So it's been a great tool. One of the things that I offer to people when we do have complaints about an officers, the way they talk to somebody, the way they treated somebody, if it comes to me, I offer to the community member, go ahead and come on in. I'll sit down and I'll watch the body camera with you. I've had some take me up on it and some not, but it's really a nice tool and resource for us to have. Beyond that, I mean, it's just an overall thing. I mean, it protects everybody involved. I think it's a very good thing for transparency. Like Mr. Reller said, it's not a cheap thing by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was a $230,000 project, and I think we got about $80,000 in grant funding towards it. But it is an expensive endeavor. But at the end of the day, it helps instill some community trust, community support, and gives us a tool to look into officer conduct. We also do, our supervisors on each shift do random reviews, and it's twofold. It helps us monitor the way officers are talking to and treating people in the public on a regular basis, but it also helps us look for and identify training gaps. We see an officer doing something multiple times in different videos that maybe is a safety issue for the officer, and it helps us identify how we need to steer our department training, or if we need to have specific training for that particular officer. So it's helped us in a lot of ways. So again, I feel what Mr. Reller said. I really appreciate the council's support of that program.
Any questions from council? Anyone from the audience? There's no action needed, correct?
Informational.
Informational. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, we're gonna hop in the street.
No, wait.
Oh, you're right.
Joan. Produce Prescription Program.
Yes, thank you. So this is just some information for you and also for your constituents. As a part of our HEAL grant, one of the deliverables, we needed to partner with an agency in town. So Jaleesa worked with Haymaker Farmers Market as well as Access Point to put together this produce prescription program that looks specifically at fruit and vegetable consumption. And what we came up with was creating coupon booklets that have a value of $120 that can be used only at the Haymakers Farmers Market from June to the end of September. They can use all $120 at once. They can spread it out throughout the course of those months, but it's only for fruits and vegetables, but then that frees up their money to maybe purchase other things that the farmers market offers. This will be our first year doing it, so we kind of narrowed the field to Kent residents, or if we need to, we can expand it to people who live outside of Kent but maybe work in the city of Kent. There is really a no income limitation in terms of we were concerned that people may be living on the fringe and maybe having some tough choices, so we didn't want to keep it at poverty level or 100% poverty level. So we just said if there's a need, we'll consider it. They do have to be a patient of Access Point. If they're not, they can quickly get that done. And so there's like a pre and post test to just see what's your fruit and vegetable consumption now after the end of the program. What does it look like? So currently right now, of the 100 booklets that we created, there are 43 left to pass out. Access Point was so enamored with it that they decided for one of their 55 and older communities that they partner with, they were going to do 50 booklets of $60 a piece because that's what their budget could afford. All of those have been passed out. And then a registered dietitian that we've worked with in the past said, hey, let me create some learning modules and let me get some easy recipes so that people know what to do with these fruits and vegetables and how to make quick, appealing, meals out of them. So I was very, very excited to offer this. So I can also send this to you electronically, so if you want to forward this to any of your constituents, and I'll just say that the Regional Ohio Department of Health liaison, when I passed this on to her, was very impressed with the innovation and the partnership that went into this. So I'm very happy to offer this. And then I'm just going to do a quick shameless plug for our health fair, June 15th, 1 to 4. I'll send that electronically too. We're going to offer a lot of great screenings this year, like dental, hearing, foot screening, so I'm very excited about that. So,
Thanks, Joan. Any questions from council?
Yep.
Heidi?
Yeah, so what about if somebody comes to you at the health department that seems like, they would be a good candidate for this? Is it something you have to send them to Access Point to?
They have to be an Access Point patient. So they would either have to already be established or be willing to start seeing providers there. Because they're the ones that are doing the pre and the post test and actually handing out the coupon booklets. They have a wider hour range, so they can see more people than we could at the health department.
And they've maybe I missed this, but they've also put in some funding, or they just...
They separately decided that they would do some additional booklets.
Some additionals,
Yeah, and then next year we hope to make it a little bit bigger and better, but this year we thought we'll be a little bit restrained and just go kind of low and slow.
Yeah, I could see some grant opportunities. I mean, based on the data that you're collecting from the pre and post tests and the people that that they've been able to give it to, like maybe the healthcare person's perspective. Yeah.
Further questions? Okay, no action needed. Thanks, Joan.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to hop into street sidewalks and utilities, Mr. Sidoti.
Yes, we have the Haymaker Farmers Market License Agreement Revision, and I don't see Jim here. Is someone, yes.
Is that kind of like a housekeeping thing? Oh, Melanie's coming.
Melanie's up.
I'm sorry, that's me.
Yep.
I'm Jim tonight.
I'm excited to
Double
be here
pay.
to present this. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It's another great way that we do great things here in Kent, and there is a request to amend the license agreement for the farmers market in order to paint the underside of the east side of the bridge on Franklin. This will be a pretty unique item. Did they get these? Okay. You know, and it goes along with how they painted the bridge abutments, and this will just add to the character and the flavor down there. There's no cost to the city. This is all being done, but it's just an amendment that we need from the...
Any questions? Gwen?
Yes, I have a question. Did this go through our art review committee process, or is this a separate?
Don't know. Bridget's reading.
Bridget, that's right.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you.
Apparently, yes, that it did.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yes, Melanie. You're right on top of that.
Yeah, we're right on top of it. Jim is, I can assure you. But he's also continuing to work with ODOT because this is an ODOT bridge abutment. But as things go with Jim, he's very good at persuading and getting these things approved. So we're very excited for it. Again, it's a unique character down there. It'll really add to the area that's down there, and I think it'll add to some of the flavor that's being done.
Yeah.
So we would request approval of this amendment to the license agreement.
Other questions from council? Seeing none, back to, there's not much left.
I would
Oh,
move...
Heidi, you got it? Okay, go
I
ahead.
don't have a question.
No,
but
you're good.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, do it.
I would like to move approval of this endeavor with the emergency clause.
Second.
Okay, any further conversation?
It's just another great enhancement of our downtown, and, you know, what can you say? This is, these things keep coming, and we love them.
Hearing no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, as previous, there was a motion to go into executive session. So I have to ask the people to leave the room. We're going in executive session. We're going to come back in public, and we're going back into executive session. So it's a little weird tonight, but that's what we're going to do.
Did we have a motion?
So I ask you to leave the room.
Do we have a motion?
We need a
There's
motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
We already made the motion. It was right up front.
We need roll call
You roll
We
call.
did
Yeah.
roll call.
for the executive session.
The first one or the second one?
We did roll call for the public hearing. We need Jack to read the
Oh, I
motion.
thought we'd do that when we went back into session.
Yeah,
Do
we
which
need
one?
an executive session, just the one right now, right, or all three of them?
If you want to do both.
I'll do all three. We need an executive session. Well, I will make a motion to go into executive session, number one, to discuss conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action, two, board and commission appointments, and three, land use.
Second.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Need a motion to excuse Mr. Hook.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You already made the motion.
To go into
That's
executive.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're...
Yeah, we're going to get nailed shortly.
Are you taking 5 minutes here?
Yeah, let's take some